Boosh.
Listen to Abe Thompson for an hour. I'd rather fuck a blood relative.
Yo, 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 ladies and gents. It's a Friday night. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, ladies, gents, beauties and binfluencers, cult members, people of the booge. How's it going? How are we doing? It's Friday night, it's 8 o'clock. We're live on YouTube and indeed on a live stream. As always, that's the deal for Friday nights. Doff of the cap to the Patreon backers and a special mention to Kai, Eddie and Mark, our three newest Patreons who all joined patreon.com/Aid Thompson this week. If it's your first time listening, the Patreon is where shows go 2 days before anywhere else. They are Patreon exclusive for 2 days before they re-emerge on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and indeed on YouTube also. There's also some like in-person meetups. The next one of those is at the end of April. Last one we did was in October in Brick Lane. So I'm looking forward to another one of those coming up very, very soon. What else do we do? I'm going to be doing stand-up again. I'm planning a show for July. Tickets for that will go out to the Patreon backers first too, and I think it will probably sell out. So if you want to get involved in that, if you want to get tickets before it sells out, Patreon is your friend. Oh, and also there's a Discord chat now. So me and the Patreons, we all jump in this Discord chat. We talk shit about Tories. We share memes. You get the deal. Instant messaging, so there's that also. Oh, and finally, you get credited as a Patreon backer. You get credited at the end of these shows, or named and shamed, depending on how you look at it and who you're bragging to. So there's a lot of reasons to jump on the Patreon. It's patreon.com/Aid Thompson. Also, final thing on the podcast admin side of things, right? I almost forgot this. The show is actually getting quite big. Like, I don't want to backpat. I don't want to brag. But it's getting, it's picking up speed now. So here is my advert for this week. Here's the sponsor for the show this week. Big things, guys, okay? People are noticing. Let's do this. This episode, is brought to you in association with Pizza Express. Tasty, crusty, and authentic pizzas for all the family at a great price. Go and check out pizzaexpress.co.uk now, because if you don't, we will hunt you down and physically beat you. We will hold you down with one of the exhausted staff lamping you repeatedly round the head with a fucking rolling pin. And if you buy Papa John's, you're a paedophile. And okay, this is not a real advert, but I did warn you motherfuckers that if you don't help me find sponsors to actually support the show, I'll just write some fake ads and you'll have to sit through those instead. So that's where we're at. On to the show. Guys, these shows don't get saner, do they? Every time you've come on, I swear I've got like descended further into insanity. Let's move on. Let's go on to the show before I get fucking sued. I'm trying to make this like self-sustaining financially, but I'm actually going to get sued into the ground before.
Yeah, I think that ad will make people want to join.
I hope so. Yeah. Like, just if we give you £3 a month, will you stop doing adverts, please?
Yeah, it's like anti-ads. Like, just please stop.
Let's get into this. I'm joined tonight by the wonderful, the hilarious, the deadly Supertanskiii, who you may have heard tittering away in the background there. Let's get through the intro, shall we? And then we'll just jump straight into it. So it's been a weird week on this weird and dystopian plague island. The cut adrift sick man of Europe, both fiscally and in a riddled with COVID sense. It's been a jam-packed festival of scandal on this economic and cultural sinkhole we know and love as the formerly Great Britain. Early on in the week, Boris Johnson took an unexpected break from the dignified silence he's been keeping since he left Number 10. He's been so classy since stepping down. I have not seen this sort of post-peak grace since I last laid eyes on an aggrieved Gallagher brother. Just start to finish, grace, elan, dignity. And there's been people badgering him, classless journalists trying to make him look bad, trying to force him to make himself look bad. But no, they've been begging him to share his Latin phrase-peppered thoughts on Sunak's performance, on Brexit, on the abysmal polling of the Conservative Party. But no, since July 2022, when he stepped down, the whole time Boris Johnson has been like, no, guys, look, I am no longer your Prime Minister. Okay, Mr. Sunak is leader now, and I'm just going to take a back seat and give him the space that he needs to make a success of this. And I wish him all the best. And Rishi, if you're listening to this, I'm rooting for you, champ. That's been his style. Anyway, this week he's been dragged, kicking and screaming, back into the political limelight twice. First when Sunak nailed down this deal with the EU, when he failed spectacularly to coordinate a 100-strong rebellion that just didn't fucking happen and left him looking like some sort of fucked up cult leader, knocking back the Kool-Aid, marching to the top of the hill, only to turn around and see that no one else has drunk the Kool-Aid and you just sat there alone dying on a hill. So that was fun. That was the beginning of the week. Then again, there's this sort of brief intermission from the Boris Johnson show in the middle of the week. That was Matt Hancock taking the baton of Bellendry from him for a couple of days, only to then we have Boris Johnson reappearing at the end of the week to be mauled by the Privileges Committee, which, needless to say, now they're saying it's entirely possible that he's lied to Parliament and he could be deselected for trying to scupper the Brexit deal the other day. He might be suspended for 10 days and then his constituency might have to do a recall. Basically, it looks like we may have finally moved Defifle Johnson on from fuck around to find out. And as I said, joining me tonight to talk about this and more is the hilarious and deadly Supertanskiii. What's up? How are you doing, my little dandelion?
Dandelion, I love that. Are you sure you're done?
Sorry, that was way longer. I did warn you though. I was like, I think this is...
I'm surviving. Yeah.
Good.
Surviving mostly on the tears of Tories. Did you watch Channel 4? I don't think you did watch Channel 4 News tonight, did you?
No, I've been doing like bath and bed and all that jazz. Why? What happened?
Bathing yourself, putting yourself into bed. Yeah, no, Jacob Rees-Mogg died on his fucking arse on Channel 4 News tonight.
Oh, really?
He did this pre-record with Christian and Guru Murphy that was just shocking. I mean, you could just see him like desperately trying to clamber for answers because he's trying to... First of all, he slagged off everyone on the committee. And then he said, oh, well, no one really has to abide by the results of the committee anyway. It has to come back to the House and all this bollocks. And then Christian Guru Murphy, you could just hear him. You know that Steve Baker bit with what a cunt. You could just hear it. You could see it in Christian Guru Murphy's eyes. Yeah, it was brilliant. I love watching Jacob Rees-Mogg have a really bad time. And I hope I get to see it.
Is that true? Because I thought the whole thing with the Privileges Committee was that if they find that he has lied to Parliament, they can suspend him. And if it's 10 days or over, or maybe it's 10 days on, like, literally...
No, it's long. Yeah, it's after a certain amount of days. Also, his own constituents can vote, to get him out. But no, I don't know. Well, it's hard to tell Jacob Rees-Mogg. I mean, I think the fella just expects his fake accent to carry him. He's just a born bullshitter. Like, I don't think he really thinks it through. But I was under the impression too that they have to abide by it. But then there's also the talk of, he was talking about how it has to go back to the House and there has to be a vote, but I wasn't aware that was the case at all.
No, it's the first time I've heard of that. But it's the sort of thing where somebody with his face and his voice, he'll say it and people will just take it at face value. They'll be like, oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Now, yeah, I mean, it's depressing, frankly, that we've come to this. But then it's like the old white coat syndrome, isn't it? Where, did you ever have that where if you've got quite a, not posh mum, where she would put on a voice for the doctor or she'd put on a voice on the phone. Like my mum is as Essex as hell, but she would all of a sudden try to sound like a toff on the phone.
Yeah.
Or in the presence of doctors would get all kind of submissive around doctors.
Oh, right.
And yeah, it's quite a common thing. Well, white coat syndrome is normally when your heart rate increases in the presence of
like
medical doctors. I don't know how the fuck it is, but yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. So do you think is this the end for Johnson? Because I feel like around the time of Partygate, I was like, that's it. He's definitely fucked now. And And then Pincher happened. I was like, well, that's it. He's being ejected from number 10, so that's it. He's over. But he's just this fucking annoying fly that just keeps buzzing around. I'm like, will he go?
I don't know. Like, I think as long as there's something to be plundered, he's going to remain, because he's just in it unashamedly for the bumps, isn't he? He's in it for what he can get out of it. And I think he really gets off on the fact that he can still wield a certain amount of power over people, like the way that he's whispering in the ears of the DUP, going, "Oh, you don't want to vote for this." Allegedly, like, rumours are behind the scenes, that's what he was doing instead of attending Parliament on the day that Sunak put it to the House. He's just a massive cunt, and I wish he'd piss off.
Did you see the interview with George Osborne where he said, really all this comes to, like, I think there's no love lost between those two, to be fair, so it's
really well, George Osborne's dodgy as fuck anyway.
Yeah. Do you remember the interview? Well, I'll come back to the one. I don't want to sort of go be like chasing my tail around like different George Osborne interviews, but this one he gave last week, he said that like all of Boris Johnson's behaviour can be explained, like he just wants to be Prime Minister again, and he will do literally anything that is required, that is necessary to make that happen. And if that is picking up Sunak's deal and hitting everyone around the head with it, was something along those lines, he was like, then so be it. And I was sort of like thinking, that's incredibly revealing for a sort of fellow Etonian. But I do gather that I think George Osborne thought he was going to step up and be the next Prime Minister. And
really?
then Johnson did his little dance and became Prime Minister. So I think, yeah, there's some sort of beef there.
Really? Because Osborne, well, was he on like the Andrew Neil show? Because I know that he's on there a lot with old Balls, isn't he? Old Ed Balls. But yeah, like I don't think there is any love lost there. But then I think a lot of people also, for their own self-preservation, eager to distance themselves from Johnson anyway. Because to anyone with any sense of rationality or intelligence, the guy is batshit and running wild, and he has like just sullied, like, you know, like the reverse Midas that he is. He just shit over everything.
This is what sort of surprises me, is like, it's not that people like Boris Johnson exist. I mean, there's been, you know, for as long as there's been human beings, and there's been careerist, you know, opportunistic, narcissistic, sociopath types who put on a front to either attract attention or to get in your good books to further their own interests. Like, we know everyone's met people like that. The thing that confuses and bothers me about it is why anyone still like, why are the DUP even listening to him? They must know like how well documented his lack of trustworthiness is. Like, everyone knows he talks shit. Why did journalists even ask him what his opinion is on stuff? Because he's not going to say anything of substance. He's going to say whatever he needs to in that exact scenario to get him to the next step, right?
Well, I don't think the DUP aren't particularly popular, are they, really, as a group of people? And Johnson is a world-class con man, and he's really great at giving, you know, the impression that he is something that he's not. And he's a populist. He's, you know, he constructed a brand around himself in order to get where he is. As for the media, well, it's either bribes, favors, or mates, isn't it? Like, let's face it. I mean, I put this in my video today. What a lot of people don't realise is the relationship. There was someone on LBC earlier as well talking to Lewis Goodall, about how they don't think it. I've just completely lost my thread. I forgot what I was going to say.
You said you put something in your video today.
Oh yeah, about how they're all really closely interlinked.
Yeah,
like, they're all friends. Like, you know, that Johnson was a columnist, you know, before he became, you know, an MP, and how they're all just really closely interwoven. I mean, look at Sunak. He was a banker at the time of the financial crash, and then he goes on to being Kwasi Kwarteng, and his links to Crispin O'Day, who, you know, was apparently, you know, there's thoughts about them having dinner before the most recent kamikaze budget. And these people are all completely, like, they're linked with each other. And it's, yeah, as I say, favours, bribes, brown envelopes, who fucking knows?
And a good example of that is one of these leaks that came out this week, which I saw you post, and then I started looking at also, was the exchange between, like, interesting that we're bringing up George Osborne a minute ago, because it was between him and Hancock. And Hancock basically says, look, I need a favour. I need something to go on the front page of the Evening Standard tomorrow. Yeah. And Osborne's just like, sure. Yeah, just send me the words, whatever you need. I'm like, this is fucking, like, I know we say, like, it's what?
His former boss. Like, Hancock's former boss. And the way that he's just like, nearly there, you know, come on, man. What the fuck?
Yeah. But it's so, like, I mean, so much gets said about, you know, don't regulate the newspapers, and it would be state overreach if the government started telling newspapers what they can't and can say, and all that stuff. But I'm like, but we have to all agree that having somebody high up in government, like cabinet level, having coffees and text messages and like having an editor and just telling him what to, like, there has to be some regulation there. Like, with that sort of exchange happening, I would be saying, or looking at somebody to say to George Osborne, you can never be an editor of a newspaper. Like, you're banned. You're struck off.
Yeah, but then there's like, when I was looking through this, there was kind of like private eye revelations around the time of him becoming the Evening Standard editor, and about his links to Lebedev, and about how, you know, George Osborne always steered away from, you know, abolishing the non-dom status and all this kind of business. And I was going to put that in my video, but you know what? There's not enough time in a video to fit all of this stuff in at the moment. But yeah, it was the cozy relationship, and there always has been, to some extent, that relationship between the media and politicians. But Johnson, like, the really great book by Peter Oborne, The Assault on Truth, picks this apart. And to his credit, I mean, Oborne was a traditional conservative. Now he's actually really quite left-wing in many ways, but he talks about how this has always existed to some extent, like the book about lying that he did under the Labour government. But under Johnson, it just went nuclear. I mean, even Johnson briefing against Hammond and, like, you know, other people that were more moderate conservatives before getting rid of them. And, you know, and the really shockingly close relationship that he has, and how he's got this ability to just wield power over what ends up in the headlines. And everyone knows that communication is everything. That you control the communication, you control everything. So it's terrifying, the power that he has. He's a conniving bastard.
It's such an important point to make as well, and I feel like it sounds like a cliche coming out of my mouth now, but I feel like it doesn't get said enough. Like, when you have someone like Rupert Murdoch owning the Sun, the Times, Talk TV, all of these different broadcast and print solutions, and you look at the Sun, and it famously loses money like every year, like. Why would you continue to hold on to that asset if it loses you money? Like, there's only one answer to that question, and that's power and influence, because you know that you're very valuable if you hold that sort of sway, that manipulation over the electorate. Yeah. And it's
terrifying.
Yeah. But then whenever you broach the subject, well, you know, not you and I, but whenever I've seen people broach the subject in, like, the Leveson inquiry and, you know, various, like, pundit appearances and stuff, people say, you know, do we need to regulate the newspapers because of the influence that they have on even, like, the morning breakfast shows and what LBC cover that day and so on? The stock response is always, look, I think people are smart enough to make their right. I'm like, they're fucking not, though, because you can see it super, super clearly, like, in scenarios like where the Daily Mail's ex-editor, Geordie Greig, for 2 weeks ran those negative stories.
Yeah, that was the old matey with the, what was his name? Was it Geoffrey Cox? He called out Geoffrey Cox, wasn't it?
Patterson?
But there was Geoffrey Cox before that too, but that didn't get quite kind of
so it was all part of the same thing, because Geoffrey Cox was, like, working remotely over in the Caymans, was it?
The fucking Cayman Islands, and no, that was like, he was working for their government. Like, he was like, what the hell? And that was, like, supposed to be his second job, but he was just, like, on a fucking lounger in the Cayman Islands. But yeah, Geordie Greig called it out, and then he got knocked out, and then Dacre came back in, didn't he?
That's right.
And then he was like gunning for a peerage by being really pro-Johnson, to the point where like the Partygate coverage was like North Korean propaganda. And then yeah, like he didn't get his peerage, did he?
No.
But it's still not stopped him.
No.
They're still at it. There's still
I'd love
something
to see, obviously this is a big week for like releasing private WhatsApp messages and stuff. I would love to see the internal communications that led to Geordie Greig being ejected from the Daily Mail, because I just don't believe that it was some sort of, innocent, very coincidental internal move. To me, it seems super clear that he was sort of lambasting, just mauling the government, like anti-government coverage, actually holding them to account.
Well,
how about that? Yeah.
Literally, the Mail was just telling the truth. But then you look at the influence of Cummings. Cummings obviously had some part in it, I reckon, the little weird, ghoulish man. Because look at what he did when Emily Maitlis did that Newsnight, that Newsnight piece, when he called the BBC. And didn't she get suspended for a while, or she got removed from her post for a short time, and she was forced to like retract it? And it was just literally just it wasn't even that scathing. It was just facts.
Yeah.
But the Number 10 got on the blower to BBC. The BBC pulled it. But then when you look at Richard Sharp and him helping to facilitate allegedly a loan for Johnson, and then magically, accidentally, on purpose, then getting selected, and I didn't even realise the government selected the BBC chair until all this came out. I had no idea. And they can just rerun the contest until they decide who they want to be the chair as well.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be in charge of political neutrality and impartiality.
Yeah.
Fuck.
It seems so fucking arse about face, doesn't it? It's like, here is this institution that has to be politically neutral, and yet it's perfectly fine for them to install one of their old candidates who's donated like £200,000 to the Tories. They're like, yeah,
400,000, and then like loads more to right-wing outlets that are against the BBC.
Yeah,
it's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
It's like an episode of Black Mirror, but just really fucking dull, isn't it? Like,
but it's interesting that you bring up sort of dodgy appointments like that, because I don't know if you've heard, but Labour have done something so bad. Right, they've given a job to Sue Gray. Yeah.
Oh, it's all along, wasn't it?
Checkmate, Labour.
This classic trolling. I mean, that Sue Gray thing is just batshit. I mean, you've got they're being called Sue Truthers.
Yeah.
Like people that are like thinking that like this woman who's had a career in which she's been widely respected for her impartiality, for her truthfulness, has suddenly just joined forces with that renowned, the guy that's like really renowned for being corrupt, Starmer.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so fucking weird. Like she photoshopped all the photos. Like she forced him into a room and put like a vodka in his hand.
Yeah. And like I was like catching up on tweets and stuff a short while ago where people were saying this is the same. So they think that this is all. Well, they don't think. They're cynically pretending that they think.
Oh, of course they do. Yeah.
That this is all some big Labour ploy, and it sort of it goes back a couple of years, and the end goal was for her to get this fucking like senior HR job in Labour HQ. Like, are you out of your fucking mind?
That there'd be a fucking party during lockdown.
Yeah.
Like, she'd have to see that would happen. Like,
but it's also, it's like her report, when it was released, Johnson's reaction was, this report has vindicated me. He was like, it's good to see it there in black and white. Like, I've been vindicated by the report. And all of the rest of us were like, look, I've heard of gaslighting. I've heard of people like retrospectively trying to rewrite history. But we've got, like, this is in real time. Like, we can see the fucking report.
It was batshit, like, and then you've got people like the Mail who today go, it's a Labour coup, but that, at the time they referred to it as a damp squib that doesn't really.
Yeah.
They praised Sue Gray, and they said this is a bit of a damp squib, doesn't tell us anything we didn't already know. It's fine, but the beauty is that we've got the Privileges Committee coming up.
Yeah.
And 26 pages of that was released today. And it is going to be interesting because it took them 3 attempts to get unredacted information from the government.
Mm.
First, under Johnson, he ignored it. He ignored all requests to provide information of his own. And then Truss, old lettuce, she ignored it. And then Sunak eventually handed it over. Now, if Sunak is able to help ensure that Boris Johnson is just fucking ousted from politics, I will have respect for him, because that is the right thing to do. Only for that. Only for that.
I think it's
essentially what he does.
It's more likely that will happen now. And the reason I say that is, so last weekend, as they were finalising this deal with the EU, there was a real fear, and I made videos about this and like little clips and tweeted as though, you know, this is basically what's going to happen is Sunak will announce a deal, and then Boris will do his like big mutiny thing, and it'll all fall in, like, and then we all get to sit back and then eat our popcorn at Tories fighting each other. Like, that was how I saw that trajectory going. But now what's actually happened, against the odds in my mind, is Sunak has sort of seen down that threat. So the ERG aren't like demanding that he resigns. There's no vote of no confidence. The mutiny didn't happen, which is effectively kind of, unless I'm missing something, it feels like it's neutered Boris Johnson. So the idea that he is still this towering figure that commands the respect and the loyalty of 100-odd MPs seems to have sort of dissipated. And so I think now maybe Sunak will think to himself, look, he tried to scupper the Brexit deal. He's not going to fuck off. He's not just, he'll continue to nip at the sidelines. So maybe it is best if we deselect him. You know, he's not working in the interests of the party, certainly not the country. What he's doing is working in his own interests, quite like self-evidently.
It's quite soon though, isn't it, Aid? Like, I mean, it was only literally like the early part of last week, and then everyone's talking about how they've got to go away and read it and blah, blah, blah. And the early indications from the DUP and that side of things were not great. And meanwhile, we've got, you know, obviously violence happening again in Northern Ireland, which is horrific. Johnson doesn't give a fuck about that. Obviously, he never gave a toss about the Good Friday Agreement, even though it's vital. But I think it's early days so far. And I think it also really depends on what else the Telegraph have to release in terms of the lockdown files, because a lot of people were saying, oh, this is a way of the Tories looking like they're disassociating themselves from that era. And I'm like, you can't, because Sunak was Chancellor whilst this was all going on. There is no separation. And it could get to a point where it takes Sunak down as much as it takes down any of the others. So I think we're in a kind of waiting period now. We've got to wait to see what comes out of the Telegraph. And we've also got to wait to see how people respond to the deal, having read it and digested it and such. So I wouldn't count your chickens yet. And with Johnson, he's just like a cockroach. You know, he's not going to go anywhere until he's forced to. And he's still, like, even tonight, Jacob Rees-Mogg was talking about how Johnson, despite his majority, was forced out. And it's like, are you crazy? The guy promoted a sex offender. He partied whilst people were in desperate, horrific situations.
And lied about both of those things.
To all of us repeatedly. The guy is a monster. I can't believe that the reason that he is not persona non grata is because of the media. It's because of his friends. It's because of his influence that he wields there. Simple as that. They're propping him up.
Yeah.
Bastard. What a bastard.
I wonder how long it'll be, though, until, like, brand Boris is actually toxic. So people won't align themselves with him. They will see him as someone who was ejected in shameful circumstances. He doesn't command that influence with the 100 MPs I mentioned. Like, it seems to me like his influence is waning.
Possibly, but then the thing is with him, he just won't fuck off. So it's really hard to know. Like, if just when you think you've got him, you know, he just rises up again like a shit that won't flush. He will not go.
Yeah.
And I really want him to be gone. You know, I do, but I just have no faith that we're ever going to get rid of him.
I had this idea, right, a few weeks ago. I was like, right, the Patreon tiers are like £3, £5 and £10. I was like, nobody needs to pay £10. But you know, like if you like the show, then do this, and if you love the show, then do that. And if you really hate the show, if you find me really fucking annoying, I'm going to create a separate tier for £20,000. And if you pay me £20,000, I will shut the fuck up for 3 months. Like, and
For 3 months.
I wonder, only 3 months. I'm not going longer than that. I need to talk. I'm a talker.
That's a long time, though.
Oh, I mean, like, just I won't make any content for a bit. I'll
Yeah,
still
but that's
talk.
hard in politics. By then, we'll have another 7 prime ministers.
Yeah, I'll be like coming back out, like ready to go. But anyway, I just wonder if is there something similar that we could do with Johnson? Like, he's obviously financially chaotic. He obviously has a big thing about getting donors to pay for all of his expenses and so on. So is there some way we could all chip in to a big brown paper envelope and we rock up in his underground car park of choice and we just approach him and we go like, oi, there's 2 million quid in there. Could you fuck off for a bit?
Forever.
Yeah.
Well, am I allowed to shit in the bag?
Are you allowed to shit in a bag?
In the bag that you give to him?
Oh, right. I thought you just meant generally. I was like, there's no rules on this podcast. But,
I have commonly shat in bags, but no, could I shit in this bag?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant.
I mean, it would be a nice sight, wouldn't it? Like, I would enjoy watching him rummage around in shit for a few £50 notes. If he was that.
Yeah. I'd like to just fucking rum it in his face.
Yeah.
I hate him. Like, there's very few people on earth that I really hate. And I hate people that have really wronged me personally more, like on like in my real life. I hate them less than I hate Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
Like, people that have broken my heart, nothing compared to Boris Johnson. I despise him with every cell of my body. Despise him.
Yeah. I mean, he's an easy guy to hate, isn't he? Like, almost every attribute of him is like, you know, from the messy hair, the fact that it's not just messy hair, it's deliberately messed up hair. Like, before they turn the cameras on, this is well known. Yeah, like he fuzzes it all up to make himself look a bit disheveled, a bit sort of, I don't know, a bit silly.
Wank.
From that to the sort of, you know, the peppered Latin phrases for the sake of doing peppered Latin phrases. Like, the whole thing is just superficial. And then underneath that superficiality, there's a real callous, mean-spirited arrogance of like, I don't have to obey the rules. No, the rules are for the little bit. Like, it's just start to finish, wall to wall cunt.
Yes. It is wall-to-wall cunt. And you see that in that video where he is talking to a woman that he had like this sexual relationship. I released it onto my, I think it was like about a year ago, resurfaced, the recordings that she had of him, where you hear him like losing his shit at her. And it's like pure narcissism, just rage. How dare you? You know, how dare you? And manipulation, and he's a scumbag. And the thing is, people just see this, oh, it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
That bullshit. And it's like, it's not who he is. Like, you're being conned by a low budget cabaret act, mate. Like, wise up. Up. He gives a shit about you. He'd burn a £50 note in front of you. He doesn't toss. And that's the thing that's worse, is the absolute contempt he has for all the people that are kind of maybe in the working classes that think that he's a legend. He thinks those people are scum.
Well, I think he like, a lot of people have drawn parallels between Johnson and Trump, obviously, but I think where Trump is a poor person's idea of a rich person, I've heard him described as that before.
That's a good description, actually.
Say again.
That's a good description.
Yeah. Because it's like his things are all like, it's in gold and it's this, and he gets into a limo.
It's what people call new money, isn't it? It's what people call new money. It's that nouveau riche kind of gaudy, gilt frames. Yeah.
But I think where Trump is that, I think Johnson is a stupid person's idea of a smart person, because he sounds educated, and as I say, like, he peppers the stuff with Latin phrase, but it's not. Like, there's nothing underneath. He's not particularly, if you listen to him, I don't think he comes off as witty or sharp or introspective, insightful. I just think
it's superficial charm, and he's a con man. He just recycles the same bullshit. And I think the thing is, people don't, and there's also that element of, because he was a populist prime minister or MP, people like they would with a celebrity. They associate, that's the problem with populism, is it's the celebrity status. And people, there's like a fandom associated with celebrities. So it's more of a fandom than it is anything that's based on the reality of who they are. It's the manufactured image. They get sucked in by the manufactured image. And then they, people won't listen to sense after that. And then, of course, there's the whole con of Brexit and all the lies that were spun around Brexit. So it's like a multifaceted con job that has cost more than any bank robber has ever cost us. Yet those fuckers are not in jail. And that is the thing I find the hardest to reconcile, is that I said to someone the other day, these people become MPs, or one of the reasons Johnson went for that top job is because he knew it would be almost impossible to jail him for what he did, and he could just run riot, and run riot he has.
Yeah. It's a big thing though, isn't it? It's like the conversation around, should you be able to prosecute someone for what they have or have not done in office as a politician? Because then you start getting into this realm of it's like there's layers of dictatorship kind of banana republic to it. It's like, I don't like the opposition, fucking throw him in jail. Like, whoa, hang on a second. But I do think when you've actually literally broken a law, like the who was that guy who did the private prosecution? Like, he literally tried to prosecute Boris Johnson for the lies that he told over the Brexit campaign. And I think
like one of those, was it called a class suit or something, like a something suit where people kind of all team up together to bring a kind of, a bit like what I can't remember what it's called now. Sorry,
I can't remember either. But like, it was, I remember it got up to sort of court level and then it was thrown out, and I can't remember what the reason was. Maybe somebody in the live chat will sort of update and educate me. But
so they tried to bring like a charge against, as like from a people's perspective, I guess, like a civil suit or something.
It wasn't a civil suit. It wasn't financial. I remember people talking about the prospect of him literally going to prison, even though even then it seemed very, very unlikely that it would get to that.
Really?
But I remember thinking, like, I was hugely disappointed that it had just been chucked out, because like, what the fuck does that say? That just tells you everything you need to know about how politics works in the UK. People get into it knowing that they can behave a certain way, self-serving, enrich themselves, sort out some second jobs, take a brown envelope here, whisper over here to that, like, and no repercussions. And then this sort of fosters this idea in our minds, and anyone that's listening to this, that they are free of having to deal with the repercussions, that they can just act with impunity, and that there's one rule for them and there's one rule for the rest of us. And that's
the rest of us, yeah.
That's a fucking unhealthy place to be. So you got to pick your poison. Like, is it okay to seriously prosecute politicians when they definitely have broken the law? I think probably yes. Should you jail them? I don't know. I think maybe go for the wallet, man.
Like, look at Iceland. They jailed like bankers over they're not elected officials.
Yeah.
But if anything, the people that are elected to run our country should be more accountable than the average person, not less. They're in control of all of our fucking tax money. They're in control of our laws. They legislate. They make our laws. And virtually all of the laws that they've made have been made to counteract us getting really fucking angry at them. The protest laws, for example. The horrific Nationality and Borders Bill, where they made the Gypsy Roma traveller community illegal. That is fascistic. That is horrific. And the things that they were trying to do with the Official Secrets Act, so that they've already got a stranglehold on the journalists, but then they were trying to stop the journalists from printing things that might embarrass them. That is North Korea style.
Yeah.
And these people, due process, of course. I mean, put them on trial. Don't just hurl them in a jail. But if it comes down to things like the pandemic, where it is corporate manslaughter, gross negligence, of fucking course they should. If it comes to embezzling and defrauding the public purse, I mean, surely that's treasonous, because Her Majesty or His Majesty is in charge of it's HMRC, isn't it?
Yeah,
so. I mean, what the fuck? And the illegal proroguing of Parliament.
Yeah.
There's got to be a limit. There's got to be at least some form of written constitution. And I know a lot of people go, America's got a written constitution, and look at how fucked up they are. But there still has to be checks and balances. There has to be some kind of something other than just a ministerial code that the Prime Minister can overrule.
Yeah.
He could be found to have broken it, and he can decide whether or not he's guilty. I mean,
yeah. I mean, the whole thing fucking stinks to high. Like, if you wanted to construct a system where you could do whatever the fuck you like and be free of repercussions and not have to deal with any of the consequences yourself and enrich yourself, you really could not ask for a better set of institutions and principles and like handshake deals and gentlemen's agreements. Yeah, like
some fucking psychopaths, and Raab and his mad fucking vein. I bet he's having a rough time at the moment, though, isn't he, Raab?
Poor Raab. Oh dear, is he being bullied? Is he
around? He's had to rely on turnips, and they hurt more, so he's going to get more bloody bullying allegations come out. So,
wow. What was that? How about that shit? I've been holding that in for like 10 minutes. I'm like, oh god, any second now this is going to come out. You see what I mean, guys? This show is not professional. But you love it that way. You wouldn't have it any other way, people, would you? Let me just try and drag this kicking and screaming back into a...
That's not the first time I've heard that. Wow. He does it in the group chat where he'll be recording a voice note and he'll just be going along and be going, yeah, like it's really fucked up. Like, wow, like his face
I'm keeping an eye on like the YouTube live chat, and Steven's in there, and he's like, "That was beautiful," like big love heart, and then the next comment underneath is from someone called Harold going, "Dear God."
Well, my fucking thoughts exactly.
Yeah.
Dear God. I mean, it is so impressive. I mean, it's the most impressive burping I've heard since my little brother. My little brother used to be able to burp Iraq beautifully. Iraq! Like it was just his go-to burp. It was nothing to do with the conflict, although it was the 90s. But yeah, so your wow is like a.
It's just I feel like everyone's got their word from the beer years, and for some reason, wow has
beer years.
Yeah, the beer years. Anyway, what the fuck were we talking about? Hancock and Raab and right. Okay, so let's just take a little stock take, right, of the cabinet. So we've got Raab, who's facing a bullying report. We've got, I was about to say Hancock, but he's gone, thankfully. We have Sunak, who's still sort of tarred by the non-dom stuff and the fact that he was basically an American citizen with a green card whilst he was a chancellor. We've got, who else is in his cabinet now? Therese Coffey, I think. And she was on about turnips the other day.
Oh, fucking turnip queen, yeah.
We've got James Cleverly is still in the cabinet, I think.
James not so cleverly, yeah.
Yeah.
In the cabinet, we've still got Raab hanging on until the old bullying allegations. I don't know if you said that or not. I was mildly distracted for a moment.
I did say that, but that's fine.
Sorry.
He's facing, I think there's about 20 reports now, isn't there? 15 or 20 reports.
Over different departments as well, not just from one.
And I noticed the other day that he said if he's found guilty of like one of these, or like if the bullying report comes back and says that yes, they find that he has done these things, he will agree to resign. And I was like, that's interesting, because it sounds like taking responsibility, right? And then I remembered his seat, his constituency is a super marginal. So it's like,
really?
Yeah, like where all these other like Tory MPs are like, do you know what? It's not worth standing in the next election for the fucking bloodbath. I'm going to take a seat back. I'll explore other... You probably read about those over the last few weeks.
Of course, yeah.
And Dominic Raab is now sort of in this, very brittle marginal. And he's like, if I'm found guilty of bullying, I'll agree to step down. It's like, oh, fucking really? What a shocker.
It's fucking crazy. I still can't believe fabricants, like majority. Have you seen it? It's like 17,000 or something.
It's like, who looks at Michael Fabricant and goes, yeah,
that's my guy.
Yeah, good job, Michael. Yeah.
Looks like a fucking Lego man.
Where is he actually? Where is his constituency? Do you know?
Litchfield. Lichfield, yeah. And there's a thing called Lichfield Lips or something where they fucking all hate him, and it's like a collection of like spurned, blocked people that hate Michael Fabricant. But I was daydreaming about the next general election the other day. I was thinking about it in terms of almost like Suella Braverman, like about how it's my dream and my obsession to see those fuckers crying in a sports centre at 5 a.m. on election night.
Yeah.
Going up to the fucking lectern.
I put a tweet out earlier in the week saying like that shit will be like it's gonna need its own Pornhub category for me. Because
God, yeah. It was
when I see people like Lee Anderson getting ejected from power and Rob and who, like, you fill in the blank, whoever.
So many not Mandelson, shit, wrong fucking party.
Yeah.
There's so many Portillo moments, aren't there, that are going to come? Like, there's going to be like, it's like, pick your Portillo moment, and people have got a fucking list of Portillo moments. For me, it would be Brendan Clark-Smith, the suing prick who goes around like suing everyone. There would obviously be 30p Lee, Gullis, basically most
Gullis.
of the 2019 intake, you know, that knuckle dragging cunt.
Benton, Betfair Benton.
Benton, though, is already, isn't he facing I think he's facing deselection, isn't he? Because he's had like loads of complaints or
vote
something.
Of no confidence is
vote of no confidence, that's
amongst
the one,
his supporting councillors. Yeah. I mean, he's a personal favourite of mine in terms of like me observing what's happened. So his constituency is a part of Blackpool, and he rode in on the 2019 Red Wall wave. Wave.
There was a rave.
Yeah, there was a rave to celebrate his
shittiest rave ever, mate.
Yeah. And so in he comes on the Brexit wave, and he said he was going to bring jobs to Blackpool, but the project that was supposed to generate all the jobs was like that predated him, so fucking nothing to do with Scott Benton at all, and it failed spectacularly to meet like the unemployment has actually gone up in like it's bucked the national trend. So Benton's done fucking nothing apart from accept not donations but like hospitality stuff from the gambling industry.
Yes.
And then he stood up in the Houses of Parliament saying, guys, I just want to speak on behalf of the gambling industry. I don't want new regulations to be overzealous. We don't want to be, we don't want to nip this, let's just back off a little. So, there's obviously a relationship there or something.
Oh man, it's just, they're so rotten. I mean, this 2019 intake are particularly odious. Like, they're the people where you could have stuck a blue rosette on a steaming pile of shit and it would have won in 2019 because that was the Brexit convote, right? But they are like just blue kip. They are the people that are pushing out this blue kip rhetoric, this National Front style rhetoric, and they're doing it. And they're poisoning people that maybe have a peripheral view of politics. So they lap up this nonsense. And they play on people's fears. They play on people's maybe the fact that they don't look into the deeper aspects of it. And I don't say that from a place of judgment, because before, like, I was forced to pay attention to politics, I had a peripheral view of politics. I didn't really think too deeply about this stuff. I might read a headline and not really take it in because I was busy working or doing other stuff, It's not the people. I don't, like, to quote James O'Brien, I don't blame the conned, I blame the con man. And these people have kind of dedicated the last however many years in office to just playing on racist fears, and that's what makes them so odious, is the fact that there's nothing there beyond just saving their own skin, beyond furthering their own career, beyond making as much money as they can before they fuck off. And that's what we're going to see play out over the next year or so. But election night, Aid, we're having a fucking party. We're going to throw a massive party in London, and it's going to be naughty. Yeah,
I'm going to rent an Airbnb. I'm just going to get a nice big flat screen TV, order a load of beers in, and a load of drugs. No, wait, I can't. No,
you're fucking not. You're coming to our party with the beers and with the drugs.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
I'm going to die that night. I'm going to need the NHS that night.
Yeah.
Yeah, something's going to take me out. but at least I'll get to see like a sea of like red and yellow gains before, because tactical voting, it has to be mentioned, is making a comeback under Davey and Starmer.
Yeah.
And, you know, neither of which are my ideal politician. Neither, the last leader of the opposition wasn't my ideal politician, but I 100% supported him, as I do this guy, because it's nothing, you can't get worse. You can't get worse than what we've got. You can't.
Yeah.
There is nothing I could imagine that is worse than.
Here's the thing about election night, right? I feel like, you know, when people say, look, like politicians aren't all bad, you know, they get into it for good reasons and they're there to help people. And for the most part, you know, yes, some of the front bench can be a little bit odious, but actually the backbenchers, but by and large, they're there to help people and blah, blah, blah. And then I think to myself, right, okay, I'm sure there are a few Conservative MPs who are decent constituent MPs and they don't think that they're hurting anyone. And I know that people say, oh, well, then they vote through this horrible legislation, but actually a lot of that can be explained away by like donor and whip culture. So it's like the whole system is actually the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also think, like, wouldn't you, if you got into it to help people and then you walked out in the streets on election night when your party had been fucking decimated into, like, and they're predicting that the Tories won't even be Her Majesty's opposition anymore, which would be amazing. Like, relegated to the fucking side room, like observers benches and shit.
The twat room.
Yeah. Like, wouldn't you, if you got into it for good reasons to help people, but then your party got voted out, if you walked out on the street on election night as the results came in and you heard people dancing and cheering and singing in the streets, fucking carnivals, people are so happy that your party is no longer in power, so hurtful were they? So, like, devastating were they to people's life chances, to social mobility, to institutional racism, to anything? Wouldn't that give you pause for thought? Wouldn't you go like, hang on a second, you know, I know I'm not damaging anyone personally, but maybe I've signed up for the wrong team here, you know?
Well, there will be, like, obviously a few people, like, out of the kind of, I don't know, however many that are left on the opposite benches that might kind of think, oh shit, might have done the wrong thing here. I mean, you've got people like Christian Wakeford who defected back when there was some morality in defecting. Any late defectors now, like, I think anyone that tries to defect to the Labour Party now, fuck off. I mean, Wakeford did it pretty early on. And I say what you like about Wakeford, I don't fully trust him yet. He needs to prove himself. But it took a lot of balls to cross the floor away from your party at a time when they still had the upper hand in many ways. I think that was quite a ballsy move. But the rest of them, I just don't think they even give a fuck. As long as they're taking home their 84k that rises every year with inflation, unlike nurses' wages, they don't give a fuck, do they?
No. That's
they're
interesting.
In it for the fees and the gack.
Yeah. Because like with MPs with MPs salaries, it's always like, look, we have to raise it in line with inflation. Like, they get to raise their salary in line with inflation. With nurses, it's like, we can't give you a pay rise because it will increase inflation.
I mean, you're literally fucking, those people are literally saving lives. And no, we can't give them anything.
Yeah. I think you've earned enough.
Us, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. One of our like mini bars, you know, we're not doing anything important. We're just, you know, making laws. Why don't we just get pissed up before voting on them? That's a great idea. That's like putting a fucking bar in a hospital.
Yeah.
It's mad. Mad.
And like, subsidizing it as well. Like, and subsidizing it. Like, let's make it cheaper for them to get smashed.
Fuck. Of all the people that I most resent getting wankered on my dime on like prime gack and booze, it's those fuckers. They do not deserve it. They should there should be mandatory drug tests, I think.
Yeah, before a vote, for sure.
Always. Like,
do you think? See, I don't really care if they take drugs, but
I do. I fucking do. Like, yeah.
It's the hypocrisy that bothers me. I don't like, there's no moral problem that I have.
And then they're like fucking hoovering up lines like Henry. It's mental.
Yeah, but then it's like, is there really a problem with like, In fact, if they took a shit ton of coke, they'd probably be more focused, probably sober them up a bit.
As you know, Aid, I'm very liberal when it comes to drug use. I'm pro-choice. If someone wants to choose to get cunted, it's their choice. Like, but these are people that are making laws. Like, in many ways, they're above the fucking police force. They run the, fuck. Like, and then they have the audacity to say, "Oh, we're having a war on drugs. We're gonna clamp down on these people." You're clamping down on your own dealers, you fucking nutters. Like, what?
Yeah,
what?
they've all, like, I swear to God, they've all fucking dabbled, haven't they? Like, I know everyone cracks jokes about Michael Gove. Boris Johnson, when he was on Have I Got News for You, they cracked a joke about him doing cocaine. And
There's loads of rumours about him. Trust me.
And he sort of referenced that it had gone up his nose, but actually it wasn't cocaine, or he didn't sniff it, or like there was some sort of like smirky acknowledgement. And I'm like, so then how do you stand up there in the House of Commons and say that you're going to further perpetuate this war on drugs? Like, that's the fucking solution. Like, it's clearly not, because even ex-prime ministers, ex-conservative prime ministers now stand, like Theresa May. I know William Hague wasn't a prime minister, but he was a Tory leader. And he has since come out saying, like, look, this isn't working. We need to look at decriminalisation, legalisation, like, grow it, tax it.
I thought you were going to say Theresa May was on coke. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how much stiffer she would get? She'd just become like a kind of cardboard cutout of a woman. Mate. If she got any more tense. Could you imagine it? You'd have to fucking get some WD-40 on a joint just to be able to move her. Like, it's insane. Like, traces of cocaine were found in the House of Commons toilets, and
yeah.
It's like it is the hypocrisy for me. It's not the fact that they're doing drugs and then, but mind you, I've not made, like, I've had a misspent youth. We've spoken about it. I think we had a big discussion about acid the last time I was on.
That's one of the time. Yeah, baby.
I've got no problem with drug use. It's a personal choice. Obviously, in some cases it can be a mad choice, but I don't trust the judgment of people on drugs. I'm sorry. Like, some of the maddest decisions I've ever made have been made on drugs. So.
But all I'm saying is, if they've had 6 beers in a subsidised bar and they're fucking belted, and then they're about to vote, but you had like a gram of coke here, that you know that if they snorted it, actually that would probably sort them out and get them back on point again.
Sharpen them up, yeah.
Yeah. In that instance, you'd be pro-drugs for MPs?
No. I don't want them to get tanked on all the drinks before doing the fucking vote. I think they should not be allowed to go into that place before the vote. Whatever they do afterwards, that's unrelated to making our laws, is less of a worry than the fact that they're getting... I've made very few good decisions whilst pissed or high, like, in my life.
But
so,
is that my?
I think it. Sorry, I think it might be mine.
Okay.
No, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So, what the actual fuck? Oh, and Truss, by the way, is standing again in her constituency.
Is she?
Yeah.
God, the fucking gall! Please, dear Lord, grant my children the self-confidence of an ejected prime minister. Like, please, just how do you
Truss? Just Truss, because I think it was one of the Have I Got News for You writers. She's brilliant. She's on Twitter. I forget her name. But she described Truss as naked ambition in a skin suit. And that is the perfect... She's got no self-awareness. Normally women are plagued with like too much self-awareness, like no confidence. Oh God, I'm shit. I'm terrible. Oh. If someone tells you you've got a nice dress on, they it's a tenner. It's horrible. Oh. But her, there's none of it. She's just a vacant fucking vessel of ineptitude and idiocy. Like, there's nothing there.
It's fascinating though, isn't it? Because it's like, how do you... Like, is that a lack of emotional intelligence? Is it just a like shit intelligence, like broadly to make? Because you're right. Like most people, I get that there are sensitivities and insecurities sometimes that women face, but I also feel like men also have like a different set of insecurities and sensibilities. And
absolutely, yeah.
And most normal humans would be like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. Am I ready for this? What did they think about me when I said that thing? Like.
Nothing with her.
No.
Lynn from HR is infallible. She reminds me, like I call her Lynn from HR because she reminds me of every cunty HR woman that I've ever met in my life who thinks she's just the titties at her job, who thinks that she is like untouchable, that she is like banging at HR, like nothing gets past her. Arrogance, like the pure arrogance of her. She's either simple or a psychopath. I can't figure out which one she might just be a simple psychopath. Right.
Well, yeah, I imagine somebody getting in a blazing row with her and then being like, you think I'm a psychopath, don't you? And then they'd be like, no, you're not successful enough to be a psychopath. Like,
you're too shit, Liz. Psychopaths are renowned for their success. Like, you're just fucking useless. You're a useless fucker.
Yeah. Listen,
honestly. Man.
This has been fun. God. We've been an hour already. Every time you're on, like the hour flies by, and then I'm like, fuck, man, like we didn't even talk about did we talk about Hancock? Don't know if we did.
Roncock. Well, all you need to know is that he fell in love. He fell in love with killing the elderly.
Yeah.
That's what he did. That's his only crime. Is it a crime to fall in love with what is it? 20 to 30,000 deaths in 3 months, is it?
It's a crime to wrap a protective ring around your penis and bang someone else's wife.
The kind of protective ring he put around care homes is like the protective arm that Fred West put around his children.
Yes, yeah, very similar. Sort of, compassion, or no, callousness dressed as compassion almost. Should we actually, we've got another 5 minutes or so should we take some questions?
Why not? We just roast the fuck out of Matt Hancock. I described him earlier as being like a cross between a 7-year-old boy, an incel, and a sex offender.
Yeah, I liked your tweet where I think you put a picture of, it was like a video thing of that interview that he did, and you were like, this is the first time Matt Hancock ever saw a woman.
That guy, Dr. Fergus, is a legend, by the way. But he looks like he's got an actual boner in that video. But mind you, being a sex offender, an incel, and a 7-year-old boy are all really attractive qualities for a prospective Tory MP.
Yes, yeah, he's really fucking ticking those boxes, isn't he?
Tickety-boo, mate.
I mean, you're talking like Lynn from HR. Whoever is in HR is just like fucking tick, 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 nailed, give him the job.
He's already fucked her, probably, in some weird way with his... I don't understand how he does it. He's like the most sourceless man I've ever witnessed in existence. The man's got no source. But he's like...
Do you know what? If he was a comedian on the circuit and he was playing the part of Matt Hancock, like sort of Partridgian, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
I could imagine that like a female comic might be like, he's fucking hysterical, that guy. Like he's so cringe. He's made my minge cringe so hard, it's like through the other side, and I actually fancy it. Like, do you know what I mean?
He'd make you minge cringe, then he'd try and like wank in front of you afterwards in the green room, probably. Like, yeah, it's one of those types.
He'd be sexually weird for sure. I think
he is sexually weird. Like, I think that he managed to pull that beautiful woman Gina via the medium of witchcraft.
It's the only explanation to me that makes sense.
He's a Wiccan.
Does anyone in the live chat in this stream have a question for me or Tan whilst we're busy roasting Matt Hancock?
That's
a big question, right?
That's the big question.
Keep them polite, also.
I don't think so. Let's have a look. Drown Doris is a really great comment that I've just seen. Tam, will you go out with me? Possibly. I'm desperate. I don't know. That's probably a piss-taking joke anyway.
Tan, you pissed, marry me.
Hancock is terminally 12 years old. I agree.
Here we go. I've got a question here.
Sorry.
Timothy says, what is the most important change we should insist Labour enact when they win? I think I know my answer, but I'll go to you first.
I'd say PR, and then repealing the fucked up laws that the Tories have introduced. They're going to be like, people think that when it gets to the point where Labour are elected, the work's over. That's when the work begins. Lobbying the fuck out of them to introduce a fairer electoral system and repealing the fucking mad laws. Spy cops, the protest bill, to name two.
Yeah, I'd sort of echo that. So I think it's only natural for a party like Labour, when they come in off the back of a unsuccessful, like decimating Tory loss, that Labour will mistake that for, oh, the country really, really love us. But actually, it's not that. It's the country really, really hate the Conservatives. So Labour might find themselves in a sort of false sense of security when they first get in, and they might feel somewhat like lackluster about reform. But I think that would be a miscalculation on their part, because
Absolutely.
I think like the sort of honeymoon period will not last forever. And if they don't start putting constitutional change in some capacity, whether that's PR or literally like a written constitution, I think the clock is going to run out, and people like the Tories will put a new charismatic, a sort of David Cameron, like lovey, like hug a hoodie. Say again,
Johnson's gunning for it. So yeah, that's the rumor that I've heard, is that Johnson's gunning for the job of leader of the opposition. It's good that they're thinking about being leader of the opposition. There is another question here, Aid, which is, what do you think about Sue Gray being chief of staff?
Okay, so I think it's probably a bad move from Starmer's perspective, purely based on the optics, not because I think they did it for any malicious or like nefarious reason. I think they probably should have been smarter about how bad that. It doesn't even look bad. It's just knowing what the right wing rags are going to jump on, because now
giving ammunition, isn't it? Like, that's the concern. Yeah,
it gives them license to call into question the motives behind some of that report. But you know, you and I know, Tan, and I'm sure that everyone that is watching and listening to this knows that it is Johnson and Johnson alone who is responsible for his behaviour, his conduct, his missteps, his lying. But it's, you know, this is politics, not the fucking 10 Commandments. It's like, it's about knowing what the comms are going to be like, how that's going to be received, who's saying it, what they're going to say for misrepresentative reasons. And I think maybe Starmer and Sue Gray, like, if she wanted a new job, couldn't she fucking wait like 6 months or a year until they're in power, and then, you know?
I'm trying to figure out the plan behind this, because if you're looking at it, this is coming out before the Privileges Committee, and I think I agree with you in many ways, in the sense that, like, but then they're going to leap on anything the opposition do. So the opposition are fucked in terms of the media. Like, they're fucked if they do, they're fucked if they don't. And then you've got like a kind of a person that's kind of renowned for their integrity, appointing someone that's renowned for their integrity. On the face of it, fine. But then you look at how crazy and out-hand it's got in terms of like people calling it a fucking coup. I mean, that is just...
Yeah, they call everything a coup, though. Like,
so I agree.
The Tories will lose the next election, and the Mail will be like, "It's a coup," you know?
Yeah, well, they could, literally anything. Quickly,
Labour...
should Starmer change his stance on rejoining the EU? I don't think he can right now, just because they will, again, like this. Look at what they've done with appointing Sue Gray. They will fucking leap on it. Do I think he should realign and seek better comms with the EU? Abso-fucking-lutely. But look at what happened when he appointed Sue Gray. So
yeah, I think I agree. So, like, politically, it's just too volatile for him at the moment to go, "Hey, yeah, let's join the single market." They would fucking maul him.
They would bend him over and rag him senseless.
Yeah,
like,
that doesn't mean it's not frustrating for people like myself. Like, I feel like the votes are there, the polling is there to say we think Brexit's been a fucking disaster and we need to fix it. But I think the media appetite for keeping things like Brexity is such that we just have to fucking deal with it.
You've just got a laser focus. I mean, my laser focus on anything is getting the fucking ball across the line.
Yeah.
Get Labour in, and then fucking hold them accountable. That is that was my view in 2017. It was my view in 2019, even though the 2017 manifesto was fucking banging. 2019 manifesto was a bit mental, bit too long, but I still broadly agreed with it. But we need to just get Labour in, and Labour are historically receptive to lobbying and to change. So you can make the change that you need to make when they're in power. Tories don't give a fuck. They will shit on your faces.
Yeah, that's the sense I get, is that if you want to have a conversation with Labour, you want to form a lobby group, or put a line into your MP, or what's up?
Sorry, I've just seen a question which is for you, Aid, which I will put to you now.
Oh, okay.
Does Jacob Rees-Mogg eat street urchins on buttered muffins?
Wow. I'm going to say buttered muffins. I don't know.
Why buttered?
Would either
David
of us
says he'd probably love some buttery muffin.
would either of us ever go on Question Time if asked? Would you do that?
Me?
Yeah.
I would fucking love to. I'd shit myself. I'd take a couple of Valium. I would be on it. Yeah.
I wouldn't, I don't think.
I fucking would. If look at Tom Harwood, right? He was on Question Time last night, acting like a gacked up bellend, shouting, ranting, going crazy, pretending he's like the people's champion, right? The problem is, Aid, what you've got to do is, Maria always told me, you've got to approach things with the confidence of a mediocre white man, right?
Yeah.
Now you've got to approach.
I can give
this
lessons. I mean,
but you're not mediocre. You are brilliant. So you're a million times better than that Harwood prick. So you need to go on there and approach it like you're fucking, like, like. And if in doubt, just do a couple.
Like I hosted a panel about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I didn't enjoy it at all. I found it to be
on what?
at the Right Society thing.
Oh shit, yeah.
I found it to be combative, not sort of comedic in any light, really.
Different crowd though, isn't it? Like with the Question Time, it's kind of in many ways worse. But you're also amongst people where you would stand out probably as a voice of reason, Aid. I mean, considering the fucking jebens they get on Question Time, it's like, 98% of this audience is Tory.
Trouble is like, I don't know if I could keep my cool. Like fucking Bob from Middlesbrough would stand up or something and be like, "I voted Brexit," and I'd just be like, "Oh, shut the fuck up. We've heard from you like 1,000. I don't even know if it was you, but you times of that we've heard this shit again and again. Bob. I'm so bored of it."
Yeah, fuck off and die, Bob. But no, it would be tricky. And someone said that I don't think either of you could get through Question Time without saying cunt. I'd probably stand up and just chin Fiona Bruce, like just fucking chinner.
Yeah.
It's like, shut up, you Tory bitch. Like,
yeah.
she is demonstrably lacking in impartiality. And this is why I don't get invited on Question Time. That and the fact that I didn't go to private school.
Yeah. I didn't go to private school, but I sound like I did, so I feel like I might just be able to inch it.
Do I sound Essex or posh?
Is that you asking, or are you reading a question from somebody cognitively challenged?
I used to get accused of being posh.
By fucking who? Dick Van Dyke?
Cool fucking blimey, Mary Poppins!
Who the fuck listens to Supertanskiii and goes, "Cool, she's a bit posh." Like,
sweet my fucking chimneys. like you can't. No, like some people used to accuse me of being posh, right? Because sometimes I do kind of. I don't know why I do it. I just do this like fake joke.
Your telephone
joke.
voice.
Huh?
Is your telephone voice?
Hello,
yeah.
I'm the Queen. Fuck off.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh
there
shit!
You
did you do in Iraq?
I did in Iraq. Yeah.
Oh.
I'm whipping out the callbacks. It's like the end of the show, so I'm,
He's changing tack.
Telephone voice, Iraq. Like you gotta. Anyway, let's do one more question and then let's wind it up. So.
Oh fuck it! Let's go crazy. Ask whatever the fuck you want.
Right. Stephen says, Tan, what do you really think of Matt Hancock?
I think that I would really love to push him down a well.
Okay. I mean, that sounds quite mean, quite, I mean, all he did, just remember this. I know it's fun to get a little bit combative, a bit divisive and tribalistic and faux performatively violent. But just remember that all he did was send out people's grandmothers and grandfathers infected, like they were fucking Uber Eats riddled with COVID, out back into care homes to reinfect a load of other very vulnerable people who, a lot of whom ended up dying alone because they weren't allowed to see their friends and family. But that is all he did.
All he did was fall in love with murdering old people.
Yeah.
What I would love to do, I can't say because I'd get arrested, but I hope he dies lonely and sad,
I think
like loads of other people did. Let's have another look here. The world would turn toxic. Yes, it would. Posh Essex. Yeah, these aren't really questions, guys. Johnson won't be leader of the opposition for long. It's a hard, long slog and few opportunities for graft. Tories will be in opposition for a decade and all the rats will jump ship. Probably true, actually. It's probably quite a true analysis of this. But yeah, Matt Hancock is a cunt and I hate him. I'm not opposed to saying the cunt word. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
no.
As a woman and a feminist, I've reclaimed the word cunt.
Good. That's it.
I don't know why I said it in such a simpering manner.
Yeah,
Mind you, I've had 2 glasses of wine and I'm a cheap date, so...
You sounded like you were sort of, you'd reclaimed it, but then you were a little bit unsure about actually using it there.
ATJP, fucking hell.
ATJP.
That's a pretty intense question.
He's been, do you know what? This chap he's been persistent. I'll give him that. He really wants an answer to this question. So do you just want to let him down gently, or?
I can't go out with faceless profiles on the internet because that's how I get myself murdered and left in a ditch to die.
It's it's a bit
really the way it's done, is it? Like, at least introduce yourself.
Yeah.
In a non-weird way. But no, I mean that's the problem with modern society.
with dating YouTube comments.
I don't really date though, to be honest with you. I don't bother anymore because most men end up being emotionally unavailable, non-communicative, or I get a bit weird about it and I fuck it up. So I don't bother.
I don't date anymore either, really.
Is it because you hold your tits so tight, like you are now?
Well, I'm in a shed, so it's a little bit cold here. I should put my jumper back on.
Holding your tits well tight, man. Like,
yeah. I might put my jumper back on. I might turn the electric heaters on. Right, let's wrap this up. Thank you so much to my guest tonight, Supertanskiii, for joining me again. She's a returning favourite of the podcast. I think you've been on 5 or 6 times now. You've broken the record.
Number 1 fan.
Yeah. So yes, thanks very much to Tan for joining us again, and relatively last minute as well, late notice.
Well, I've got no plans because I'm a sad singleton who's going to die alone with my cat.
Well, I don't know about. I mean, we've covered Matt Hancock. He'll die alone probably and sad. But I think
I hope so.
You'll be all right. All you got to do is reply back to YouTube comments that ask you to marry them. You have a route out of this. All right, it's more than could be said for Hancock. Guys, I want to give a quick shout out to the Patreon backers. Thanks so much to Mark, Eddie, Kai, Stuart, Anthony, Pingu, and David, Alex, Chris, Silent, T-Rex, Sarah, and Kerry. Thank you so, so much. Your support means the world to me and gives my funny bone a funny boner. I'll be back next Wednesday for the solo show. If it's your first time listening to the podcast, I do 2 shows a week. One on Wednesday where I just rant and roast and ridicule my way through whatever is in the news that day and the day before. And then Friday night is usually a guest. Tonight is Tan. Next week, I've got no fucking idea who it'll be. Let's wait and see.
Maybe Ian Dale again, you fucking big time wanker.
Well, it was Ian Dale 2 weeks ago. Then I've had Marina on. I need to
love Marina.
I'm sort of like they're high profile guests at the moment. I need to keep this momentum up, but
and you're going to spoil it all by getting a twat like me.
Well, Emily Thornberry hasn't returned my email yet, so
I love Emily Thornberry.
I know.
She follows me on Twitter. I'll hit her up for you.
Can everybody just lobby Emily? Here we are talking about how the Labour Party are more open to lobbying than the Conservative Party. Well, let's fucking prove it. Let's lobby Emily Thornberry and get her on the show. Just tell her that.
What will the hashtag be?
Oh,
it's hard, isn't it? Thornberry's not an easy name.
Thornberry, Thorny. I'm pretty good with words and like wordplay and stuff, but nothing.
It's hard though, but Thornberry's not an easy name to work with, to be fair.
No.
I'll help. I'll direct. I'll like put a hashtag out or something and say.
Maybe we just go with like When Emily met Aid, or Emily.
Or Go
Is that-
Thorns.
Maybe that's too personal, like first
Go
name.
Thorns. Go. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have a think. We'll have a think, and then look out for it on Tan's Twitter, and I will retweet it.
Yeah, I'm going to
and all
help
that
you
stuff.
get Emily, because she's a fucking legend. I love her.
Yeah, let's do this. All right, cool. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in and jumping on the live chat. It's always good fun. Loving getting questions and answering those from you. I'll be back on Wednesday. Until next time, take care of yourselves. We outie.